Hey, hey, nice to see you all. It's been a few days since I've been in here. Welcome, welcome. For those of you who are live, if you're here on replay, hashtag replay for me. We're going to talk about what it is that you want, what you allow in your life. And there was a write-in question from Karen asking me to talk about how to have conversations, how to communicate with your family and partner about your desires and the life that you're trying to build and how they can be a part of it. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. If you're here live with me, type in the chat. I'm keeping my eye on the chat box. Jane's here in my office today. You can see her lying down, so we'll see how long she makes it. So nice to see you all. I'm just coming back from my 30th high school reunion, which was so fun. Oh my goodness. Such a great time to be there and to see people who I literally have not seen in 30 years. So that was great. And one of the things that I noticed and why I wanted to come in here live with you all today is to talk about the stories that we tell about ourselves and what we allow to be true. So one of the things that Tammy wrote in, so follow me here, Tammy wrote that she wanted me to talk about what we want is already what we have, okay, which is in alignment in a slightly different way in what I wanted to discuss, which is less about wanting and more about allowing. So one of the things that you're going to see that's different in this space and how I'm talking about allowing, creating the life that you want and the relationships that you want is less about, not that I usually use the word manifestation, but less about like manifesting and doing things to make things happen and more about allowing the goodness that's already in your life, which is a slight shift from even wanting, right? Because we do have in our lives, like your life right now is a total reflection, and Tammy might say of what you want, and I would say of what you allow. All of us have a set point, a kind of ceiling of the amount of goodness, of abundance, of prosperity, of love, of affection, of joy that we're willing to allow, right? Allowing is a divine feminine quality. It's a quality of opening. It's a quality of surrender. It's a quality of receivership. So allowance is different for me from the want. From a space of want, there can feel like there's a striving or a scarcity or a lack because I don't have it. Does that make sense? I don't have the thing that I want, which is why I'm wanting it. And so it presupposes lack, right? When I say I want it. I pay attention quite a lot to how it is that I talk about things, how I speak about things, because our words create. Right. And so circling back to having all these really great conversations with these old high school friends and friends who I'd had since kindergarten for a very long time, and noticing the reality that I was creating and recreating with my words, right? With the narratives that I tell. And many of you are doing this right now as you might be going to reunions or family reunions. You might be hanging out at concerts with friends and having, parties and going to weddings and all the social things that we do over the summer. I want you to pay attention to what it is that you're allowing in your reality, in how it is that you're using your words. Does this make sense? If you're here live, drop a comment in the feed and let me know if that makes sense. If you're here on replay, let me know. Yes, that makes sense. Okay. Because often when we haven't seen people for a while, what do? We ask them questions. So how have you been? How's your family? What do you do for a living? Right? And it's this moment where we get to create the movie that we want to watch. Even if stuff has been hard, right? Like for a lot of people, it's been hard the last whatever, whether it's 2 years or 10 years, whatever your story is. But you can have a story of being a victim to your circumstance, or you can have a story of being resolutely committed to your own heroic journey. And we can retell the past we can reshape the past, I should say, by speaking a different story. That doesn't mean that there wasn't injury or hurt or pain or grief or harm. It's not about erasing that, but it is about really paying attention to, if you're willing to allow, back to that allowance, how it is that we can kind of hit this ceiling of enoughness, right? Hit this ceiling of like, I'm really used to casting myself as someone who's a victim, or who nothing kind of works out for me, or that's as good as it's going to. That feeling you hit, that you feel like you can't get beyond. Thank you. Says, yes, this makes sense. Chantel, yes, you taught me this years ago. It's a valuable skill. Thank you. Yeah. And so part of how it is that we can continue to co-create and practice in our lives, amplifying that which we want to continue to magnetize in our life, is really paying attention to your words, really paying attention to the stories that you tell yourself and you tell other people that recreate hardship, scarcity, not enoughness, codependence, right? All of those practices that so many of us are learning to become sober from, right? So you get in your life what you're willing to allow. That is our theme for the next 6 months and possibly beyond. Noticing, what are you willing to allow in your life? What goodness are you willing to allow? What freedom, what sovereignty are you willing to allow? And even as I say that, you might have something come up for you and say, yeah, but there's your ceiling. Yeah, but my partner doesn't, or my kids won't, or my financial situation is, or my physical condition is, right? And so that's when you hit this ceiling. So all that tells you is that that ceiling is a place that requires attention. That ceiling is a place that will require you to get creative so that you don't just toggle back down. Karen says, not sure I'm getting it. Still living in lack and not sure how to shift to allowing. I feel like I pay so much attention to what I'm saying that I don't say enough. Such a great question, Karen. Thank you. Yeah, so let me talk about it a little bit more. So paying attention to what we say is really important, as well as the energy behind it, right? Because if I'm trying to say something, and Karen, you had a question about how to communicate and invite your family or partner into your desires. Part of it, and part of the allowing is inviting people to be who they are, right? Because if I have a desire for something in my life, maybe more intimacy with my partner, maybe more travel, maybe more free time, whatever it might be, my partner maybe has a different desire, right? So I can be in that flow state of inviting them in because I want them to participate in the goodness of dancing or making a meal together or making love or whatever it might be. And if they're not interested, part of allowing is being available for what their truth is, right? It's like seeing, oh, they are also a sovereign human being, and what they want might be different than what you want. And so how do I make a lot of room for that and then recognize, this is, it's the part of being in relationship, but honestly, I think it's the part of being human. We don't always hitch our wagon to someone being a family, a partner, whoever it might be, that's going to totally line up with what we want all the time. And so in those places where you might have a desire and your family or your partner is not interested in participating in that with you, then, for many of the women who I work with, and I know that you know this, Karen, we hit this ceiling of like, well, then I can't ask for anything more, or nothing's going to change. And in that ceiling, it's really asking ourselves, how important is this for me? And doing this really deep self-trust work, not work, investigation, curiosity. How important is this for me? And am I willing, as I know you have, to get really creative around that? And am I willing to change the channel if whatever that thing is that I really want and I'm recognizing is not presently a possibility in this situation, this relationship, this system, am I willing to step out in order to find that somewhere else? Right? That's the big human invitation for us, isn't it? Is it may mean that I disrupt part of my life. And I know many of you have gone through this in this space where you want more out of your marriage, or you feel like you're not as spiritually connected or emotionally connected or physically connected or whatever the thing is. And it's such an intimate place to ask yourself, how important is this for my soul's full expression in life this time around? Right? That's how I feel into this. My personal belief is that, my soul is here to have an experience in this life. And for me, it's really important that that experience, that I'm pushing the edge of my comfort zone all the time. So that's how I tend to live, is to push this, because I want to expand more to see what am I capable of, right? And what that means is that I do hit that threshold with some regularity. And it does mean that I am thrown or jump into the unknown. And I know that that's not everyone's way, because many of us, and many of you in here too, start doing that thing where it's like, well, I don't want to leave this job, this house, this relationship, whatever the thing is. And so we make the pros and cons list, right? Which is fine. However, and my way is less about a pros and cons list, and it's more about what's the full expression of my soul. And am I in full expression of who I want to be? And if the answer is yes, amazing. And if the answer is no, then okay, how is it that I can be in fuller and fuller expression? Right? So let me know if that makes sense. Because, we sometimes do create relationships. And again, it can be a relationship with yourself, with your partner, with a job, with a community, with a religious or spiritual group, with all kinds of things that recreate the comfortable, static state of not experiencing what we want over and over again. Right? And that is such a personal choice. It's why, and many of you in here have worked with me. Like, I'm never going to tell you if you should stay in a relationship or not, because you're going to be where you are until you're ready to not be. And that either means divorce or changing how you're showing up in such a radical way that it lights a fire under change to create change, right? And all of us we are where we are until we're ready to not be there. That's it. It sounds so pedantic, but it's true. It's just true. You will be there to do this anymore. So let me know if that helps, Karen, because your question is an important one. You're wanting to build new life, which is really typical. A lot of the women I work with are in sort of this midlife awakening stage, where they're recognizing like there are other aspects of my life that I want to be in full expression of and for, right? And this is such an intimate part of you being in relationship with you about it, because only you know how important is it for you. And one way that I know the level of importance around something is, how long have I been dancing with it? If I've been dancing with this desire in my life for a long time, it means it's been really important. And so what are ways that I'm willing to allow and to open for it? What are the ways that I close up to it? What are the ways that I don't invite my partner or my family to participate in that? Many of us are very addicted to scarcity thinking. And so it's why it is that we hit this ceiling, because we tell ourselves all the reasons why it can't or won't change, or how I can't or won't change. So let me know if that helps. Again, if you're here on replay, hashtag replay for me. Really appreciate you all being in this space. Again, you're going to be hearing a lot of conversation about how it is that we embody more what I find to be our divine feminine nature as women, just coming into relationship with following our desires. That's why I renamed this group. It is all about you, because you do get to come into relationship with your desires, which means learning for some of us how to have a want, a desire, and then how to orchestrate an existence, a life that lines up with that, with the people who you choose to be around, with the stories that you choose to tell about yourself or others, like I was talking about at the top of the video today, with the thoughts that you're running in your mind and heart, and with the people that you surround yourself with, right? I have a couple of spots open. If you've graduated from any of the programs that I've offered the last 4 years here online, I have a couple of program options, actually a retreat and also a monthly sacred journey for women. And those are only for graduates of any of my programs, because the foundation to everything is self-responsibility. And my relationship mastery course is all about coming back into responsibility for your own life. Because if you don't take responsibility for your life, you're going to be practicing codependency and wanting somebody else to do that. And so these small groups, and the retreat that I'm doing in October are for women who have done that work, that practice. And so they're very aware, they're very onto themselves, and they know when it is that they're falling back into old practices of codependency. And so I'm going to be running more and more what I think of as next level opportunities for women, because I know that there's a deep desire for us as women to be in spaces with other women who are willing to get sober from their addiction to codependency, scarcity, and blaming others. Doesn't mean that we're perfect. I'm certainly not perfect, but it does mean that we are willing to open to living in relationship with more abundance, allowance, magnetism, and less blaming, being a victim, delaying our growth for another time. Does that make sense? So if you are a graduate of one of my spaces and you're interested in either of these offerings, DM me or send me an email, and I will send you information about it. And for those of you who are newer to my space or maybe haven't participated in anything yet, I will have some invitations for you later in August. So thank you so much for being here. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'll read through all of the comments and reply. See you soon. Bye-bye.